welcome back to the Golden Blab episode 4. We are a month old, a podcast about Golden Tee with Adam Kramer and Kevin Lindsay. To all the haters out there that said you guys are gonna, miss time, like, you'll be right eventually, okay? We will, this will fall apart. Yeah, this one's for you too. There you go. Oh shit! I think I spilled some on my desk and my mic, which is tradition. So, episode 4. We are back from Vegas after our industry trade show. So let's start there. We talked about it last week. I guess we should tell people what this is if you're just listening to this medium. So our industry trade show, AMOA, do it every year. Las Vegas. We've been to New Orleans. We've been all over the place. And this is a place where we can see what's going on in the world, what people are doing. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts from Vegas? What were your thoughts about our trade show?
I said this a little bit last week, but it was more solidified after we record the episode and had a final day. Normally we dread the last day of a trade show. We play a lot of closest to the pin, me, you, and Josh, because second day of trade shows are historically just slow and they're long, and then you're waiting forever for your pallets to return to break down equipment and ship it off to its final destination. Thursday might be even closer to a Wednesday than I've ever thought it could be, especially at Amusement Expo. Busy 95% of the time up until the last half an hour of the show, which is just shocking. It never ends up that way. I don't think I played closest to pin once. A lot of operators coming by the booth, got to walk the show a little bit more just to finish up with some of the conversations that we were having the previous day, but a lot busier than I think any of us expected.
Yeah, I mean, even talking to people that have gone to it for longer than we have, you have, they were saying that they haven't seen it like this in quite some time, which is awesome. And it's not, I don't think it's lip service. Like there's, that's right. We did record last week, so we were getting a taste of the show. But in general, it was like the real, you hit it, like the second day of any trade show, like whatever, if somebody out there works in some industry and you've been to a show, it has a normal flow to it, right? Day one, everyone's chomping at the bit to get in and see and talk to people. Day two, it's like, can I fuck around a little bit? Where am I that I could do something awesome now that I've seen and talked to everybody that I want to talk to? But no. Yeah, I didn't get a sense that was out. You mentioned it, like the number of games played in Golden Tee. It is funny how we look at it that way. I could tell how busy a trade show is based on how many games of Golden Tee that I played. I attempted to play one Rattlesnake Ridge game, of course, to try and shoot a 30 under. That would never be. Yeah, that's the classic trade show move. Maybe I'll do that tonight. And I quit on hole 2. Not because I messed something up. Normally that's the case. But I quit because it was very, very busy, which is a lot of fun. Also, a lot of really cool stuff to see, by the way. We love Golden Tee, but we're big kids. We love games. So we had fun. One of my fondest memories of this show will be John Noble. So Golden Tee mobile players, and really Golden Tee arcade players will know John Noble. John Noble helps with ITNet. He helps with, everything. The dude is a Swiss Army knife, but Golden Tee Mobile really oversees the project. And he came with us to check things out and see, watching this dude shoot free throws in a gargantuan, oversized Papa Shot. The guy's, I did not expect him to have a jumper, Kevin. Like he has some game. It was disheartening. He kicked my ass. I was not happy about it.
Yeah, John, in the most respectful way possible, is a bit more seasoned than you and I in a lot of respects. So for me to watch you and John play both the basketball game and the football game, it was actually very astonishing because I would have thought you, of all people, would have just been kicking ass in the football game. I gotta agree, it was actually pretty bad. I could not have done any better.
To be fair, the football game, you and I tied also in one of them, but the football game, it was confusing. It was like, first off, I want one of these. When we talk about some of these games, and I know we should be talking about Gold Tee, but this is the fun shit. This thing was gargantuan. I think this was like 20 feet tall. So everybody's played the Dave & Buster's where you try to throw the football through the hands, or even smaller than that. This was like 2 times the size of that, right? It was huge. And So I think in general, my arm hurt afterwards, and John beat my ass in that, but they were blanky a little bit. There was some confusion about how things are going, where to go with the ball. I'm not making excuses, but I kind of am. I'm just saying. That being said, John, it was astonishing. The dude is a one of the smartest humans I've ever met. And I'm not saying smart people can't be great at throwing footballs, right? But he
We just
had
don't expect that on John.
shocking fluidity for the long-armed bastard that he is. And it was impressive.
I would say in your defense, it's not like there was a sticker right in front of your face that told you what to do that you just happened to glance over. But if it makes you feel better later that night, I can't even say I whooped his ass, but I kicked John's ass pretty well in air hockey at the New York arcade. So I got him back in your defense and honor.
Well, thank you, because I was infuriated, but proud of John. And John was proud. He should be proud. So, yes. So seeing some of that stuff is fun. Golden Tee going into the Hall of Fame was very, very cool. I think we talked about that a little bit last week as well. That was a really cool moment. And just thinking about that was really nice. Talking to Jim, talking to Larry. We were going to have Jim Zielinski on this week. There's been a lot going on. We're still doing a podcast, but there's a lot going on. We're going to hopefully have Jim on next week to talk about the award and also start to talk about different things. So Jim is, I think, going to be a frequent guest on this show, both to talk about the past and really the present as we start to get a little closer into update season. And I guess we could go into that. So one of the cool things about this podcast, which we had no idea how we're going to fill up time, is like we can do whatever the hell we want. And we can also do whatever you guys want. And so I think part of the coolness that I've been looking forward to in this is giving people an idea of like, what are we doing on a day-to-day basis? Now, the answer is normally like a fire drill. There's something different every day, which I love, and I think you do too. It makes for manic lives, but it also makes the job never boring. But coming back from the show, traveling the previous week, it's been very busy, and showing up on Tuesday, and then walking in, there's you can feel the development group for Golden Tee, specifically the arcade side. You could feel it building, right? And right now is like not the most critical time of an update. The ideas have been delivered. The ideas now are getting like that nuanced discussion, which is actually the best and most difficult part. If this, then what? If this, then what? How do we do this? Does it show here? And then pretty soon, it starts to really get into the hard QA phase. So while this isn't like the home stretch, I could tell you, and you probably got this vibe too. You like walked in, we're got our, in a good way. I say got our ass kicked at the show. It was a great show, but you're out in Vegas, you're traveling, you come home, and you walk in, and it's like, guess what? It's go time. And I love this time of year because the update and the new things really start to crystallize, I would say.
Yeah, as we get to like the spring break time, that is really where, the ideas go from just the ideas and you start to see the pieces come together, whether it's Mike Sanchez and art, whether it's Andy Hansen and kind of, working on plans of how we're going to test everything and make it efficient, or, Nigel's team of programming, and how are we going to just build all this and make it work. Even some of the new features that we're talking about, whether it's for this year, next year, whatever, but you get to a point where the talk is over and now the discussion becomes, okay, how does this actually implement in the game based on the dev docs and all the feedback? And then what can we do to make it better? And then, start getting it tested and put the puzzle together.
The thing I'll say this year, it's the first time, and I think and I started to feel this last year, but more so now, it's more traditional in terms of an update than we've had recently because of the new platform, because of COVID, because of new tech, because of all these things. Nobody cares in terms of, it's not even an excuse. It's just the reality. This is a year, even building last year, the remote download, where you could download your updates from your cabinet, which was awesome. Scary. Massive undertaking. And there are things in this year too, like both that the player will see and the player won't see, that have been gargantuan in nature. All of that stuff is coming together now. So it's like it really is the most critical part, where you've got people that have been working on this stuff and everything kind of comes together to form this picture. And on your standpoint, it's like, hey, now we can start talking about when we're going to talk about these things. Dude, I've lived that position. Obviously, you know it well. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy job to talk about when the right time to talk about this stuff is, because you never want to be too early. You don't want to be too late. You want to get people excited. You want to answer questions. It's actually what I'm most excited about this podcast. You and I were talking today behind the curtain of like, this is where it gets fun, in that we can talk, we can announce something that we're doing for the game. And then instead of just it being, here's a social media post, here's some text, you and I can actually talk through and have a nice, I don't know about nice, but a nuanced conversation of like what this thing is going to do, what the expectations are. That is what I am really, really excited about. Not yet, but very, very close.
We're getting there. The nice thing about this time period, and I say this jokingly and seriously, but this is kind of the final countdown for we try to stick to the development plan and what we're going to do and what we're going to put in there. But every so often there's an idea or two that just you or myself or whoever comes up with, and we're like, well, can we maybe do that for this year? Like daily contest and money shot for home last year was kind of this time. There's some stuff that we're not ready to talk about yet, but not me, but somebody else on this podcast is like working on in the background, where there are these great ideas, but you have to manage. And again, for you as, you know, project manager and as the president, and for the whole dev team, it's tough because we have great ideas. Everyone wants to say, yes, let's make it happen. But you can't always do that. We as a development team in the 7 years I've been around it have been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very forgiving in that regards. And I don't think there's a ton of stuff that at the last moment we said, no, let's punt on it. You obviously do that.
It's
with like
it's
bigger
within
features,
reason.
but exactly. It's just what I was going to say. If it's within reason and there's a framework that we can use to build off of, and it's not straight from the ground up, that is where honestly sometimes the best ideas come out of.
I have a reputation amongst the development team of being the feature creep person. Now I contain it better than I used to. And we all have it. You and I are very passionate about this game, and we go out somewhere and we see something, maybe not tied to an arcade game at all. I'll throw on like MLB The Show or whatever. You find your inspiration in something you do, and that will be like, hey, what about X? And it may not have a relationship with what you saw at all. And it is tough because we are constantly trying to make this game better, improve things that are in the game, add features we think will be interesting. There's some fun stuff to talk about. That is also the getting to the point of this is, I know there's interest in both the dates and all that stuff. And this is the final pieces of the puzzle that we're putting together now. And we will have information soonish.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Exactly sure.
Is there any kind of tease you want to give the people, or are we just going to make them tune into episode 5?
Oh, well, I want them to tune in.
Like something you could compare it to from the past, or
I think that like we had a meeting yesterday, and you were privy to this information too. So it's not like, oh, Kevin, no, there's something that we're trying to.
You tell by my face if I didn't know what you're about to say.
No, there's something that we're doing. And had some really great discussions. This is, I think everybody was panicked yesterday. Like, hey, we need to figure out exactly X. And I think people know what X will be. And I'm excited about it because it's very different. And through all the years of Golden Tee, there's a certain thing that I don't think we've necessarily done that's not all drastically different from the game itself, right? This isn't a target rush. And I don't mean to be a piece of shit tease right now. I'm not trying to be. But like, I think it's something that people will appreciate. And I think it's something that people will grasp onto and hang on to in a way that when we announce and identify it, people will really like it. Of all skill levels, by the way. And that's one of the hardest things that we have to do at this time is find things that everybody's going to like. It's Jim Zielinski who we'll talk to. And I'd love to talk. We could do a whole podcast about this, designing courses for a player that shoots 35 under And the majority of people in this game, the majority of people shoot like 5 under or worse, right? That's like when you look at who plays the game, there's a ton of people it's a big balance. So how do you do it? And that's a great discussion. And it's part of what has made him obviously who he is and what the game is. It's a challenge that you and I have too. How do you market to players that obviously are really good at this game and want as much information? And we'll talk about this a little bit actually shortly of something that it's kind of near and dear to our hearts that we just randomly said, well, let's talk about it. But marketing the game, building the game, making sure that there's something for everybody. All of that stuff is important. Making sure there's something for the operators, making sure there's something for the players, make sure there's something for homeowners. Like, get a lot of mouths that we want to feed. And I think we're going to do that. So we'll have information soon as soon as we get all of the ducks in a row. Now, one of the other things we're going to start doing is talking about some of the history components of our game, whether that's through interviews or other fun stories that we can tell that we've been involved in or get other people to do. You and I...
And that legal is cleared.
That legal is cleared. We had lunch this week with some of our old bosses and people that have been around the game a long time. Gary Colabano, Scott Morrison, which was great. We had a great time. It was great to connect with those guys. Great stories, just great reliving a lot of stuff and telling them also what we're doing, what we're working on. But this reminded me...
And Dan Scrimetti was there too.
Obviously Dan Scrimetti.
You can't leave Duffer Dan
No.
there.
Duffer Dan there too. And the text message chains that have since followed have consumed my life and yours. So... but it's been great. And one of the things that we talked about was how Golden Tee Go came to be. And I don't know if you know, and you probably know the full story. Now, I had a dream. I don't know if I've said, this came up in a dream of a golden tee with a screen in it that somebody was bouncing around. It was like a fever dream. And I woke up and we I remember we talked all about it. And it was like, yeah, it's funny. Right? That's great. That's cute. Talk to Don, talk to you, Scott, John. Oh, like literally everybody's just batting it around. And then everybody collectively is like, you know what? Not a bad idea. How the fuck are we going to do this? How we did it. And we'll have to get a picture at some point if we can legally do this, is we built a cardboard box with...
I believe we took one of our heavy duty IT. We shipped the Nighthawk Titan system boxes, and it became
the guts in there.
Yes, literally the base of the Golden Tee Go cabinet. I think Scott might have grabbed some like old Golden Tee 3D golf grass from the control panel. He just had in his desk, and he's like, "Let's slap it on there, stick some buttons in."
Yeah, and then I don't know how the mod, all of this, like we put this control panel on, and I remember walking in one day and it's like, there was a portable Golden Tee. Now it worked, but we were terrified to use it because we thought we might start a fire. I mean, it's like this, probably this thing is a certified fire hazard, right? This was not
It wouldn't be the first business to say, hey, this idea is great and it's been very successful, but we almost started a fire because of it.
Now, and it was fun, and we batted it around, and then obviously it goes up to engineering, and we go through the design, and we go through, is there a market for it? And, lo and behold, we have this product now that has become one of our most popular products that we have, and has since taken on new life. And you and I even are talking like this week about how can we position this product in a way that maybe we haven't with traditional Golden Tee before, which makes it really fun. And I think when I remember walking around college football tailgates and thinking like, damn, right in the bed of that truck, it would be awesome. The part I don't think I thought about was just, I got a condo, I don't have space for this, or my wife is going to kill me if I put in a traditional, all are reasonable takes, by the way. Like, hey, this is something that I can put away and use. And it's cool just looking at this proto, and this isn't even a proto, this is like GarageBand prototype into an actual physical product. Like, it's neat, right? That's truly how this thing was born. And it's kind of wild to think about because that was many, many years ago.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about just now, because you kind of teased it, and again, some of these are potential. Some of them are not done deals, but almost done deals. I mean, there's 3 different things that within the last 4 days, you, myself, Josh, we've all talked about what relating to Go and how can we make it better? How can we do things different? And just, it's actually like when you said that, it made me think like, oh, holy shit, like this is a successful product. And, the PGA Tour version of it just came out not too long ago, but we're already thinking of, and again, for the people that bought it, they're like, oh God, what are they doing now? Like something different, but like, how can we take this form factor and how can we potentially have a future with it instead of just, hey, here is a Go and we're going to keep it. How can we change it up? Maybe not on a year-to-year basis, but how can we do things differently and better with it?
Well, look at how far it's come. All right, so you have the proto, the proto of the proto, then you have an actual proto. And I remember when we built this thing, the first one we built was it was like the size of a minivan. It was like, holy shit, it's way too wide. And
it was massive.
And then we went too small and it didn't feel significant enough. And then you find it. And then it was too heavy. And then it has to pass UL. And then you have to trim weight. And like this thing went through a lot of iterations. In fact, the versions just, think about, we had a screen, then we took out the screen, then we brought in the features, then we brought it online. Now it's lighter weight in its current version. Like any good product, it's gone through these iterations to what it is today, where it's a fully functioning Golden Tee if you want it to be. And one of the hardest problems that you and I have, I'm going to include myself in marketing here still while I can, selectively, is getting people to understand that it's not a fucking toy. And I understand what they're thinking. When you look at a picture of it, you can't quite grasp its size. And this is on us to do a good job of that. And then you've seen this and I've seen this, and you bring it to a trade show, people walk up and they're like, oh my God, like what is that? Like that is not what I expected. You have it connected to a TV and you're like, here you go, give it a try. And it's a much different experience. It shows better in person than it does, I think, on a flyer or on an ad or anything else.
It does. And one of the struggles that we had internally, and I think with you and I specifically when we were designing the original Go, was when it came to that form factor, it's too big, it's too small. We wanted that control panel to be as close, as identical as possible to what was in the field at the time with the legacy cabinets. And the same thing with the PGA Tour Go with the PGA Tour cabinets, because you wanted people that have a Go to be able to make a very easy transition. If they see the game of the bar, the buttons are the same space apart from the edge. The trackball is the same, distance from the bottom of the control panel. And it requires a lot of tinkering, a lot of testing, and a lot of, head scratching and fist pounding of like, oh, we're so close, but it needs this or it needs that.
And then you need to beat the shit out of it. Then, by the way, you need to drop it from a distance. You need to pour a Coke can on it. You need to do all these things, literally all of these things you need to do, especially with a portable Golden Tee that says this thing can survive the beating of moving around as much as it can. And it's a terrifying and hilariously kind of interesting experience to see how both internally and externally we put all of our games through the paces to see, look, bars or whatever are not necessarily, it was different now. Smoking is not necessarily a thing in every bar. It still is in some, right? But games take beatings out in locations. But even in a home, and especially a game that you're going to knock around, that you're going to put away, that is built to be mobile, you had to take an arcade game and make sure that it could move and take a punch or two or three or whatever it would be. And even that process has evolved quite a bit over time.
Well, one of the last trips I truly made right before COVID happened 4 years ago was I went to the a golf influencers party in Arizona in February, right around the Waste Management Open that weekend. And I took it. It was just not long after the Go launch. I took it as my second checked bag with Southwest, which, by the way, always fly Southwest because your bags are free. Just throwing it out there. That's what I do. But if you have a Golden Tee Go and you're going on vacation and the kids are going to Disney World or whatever, you're like, I don't know if I want to go. Just take the Go in the box, keep that foam in there, and not a single problem. And it ships just fine.
That's a good test too. Yeah, we were sending games around to our sales rep. I remember that. It's wild. So in any event, we're not saying this just to say go buy one. But there are some fun origin. But go buy one. But there are some fun origin stories here of some of the things that we do that start off in as an idea or a dream and a cardboard box that become a big part of what we do. And it's fun. I mean, this is a part of the job that we absolutely love. The other part of this job that we love outside of Golden Tee is watching new players emerge in our game, whether that be competitively or just people that like the game, that reach out to us and say, oh my God, I've never played this before, or I've done this. I love this. And the question that I've gotten asked millions of times, that you've gotten asked millions of times, that people who play this game competitively have been asked, like, how do I get better at Golden Tee? Now, why are we talking about this? Frankly, because I wanted to and you wanted to. And it's like, why not? Because I think that it's one of the most important questions that people will ask is, if I want to play this game, how do I get better? Now, when I started, right, there was no streaming. There were no videos. YouTubes weren't a thing just yet, but they were starting to become a thing. And the emergence of Golden Tee Great Shots were great. But as many calls and emails I got were, that's just a bot. That's absolute bullshit. Fair enough, kind sir, or good madam. But, and so the number of people that would call me or email and say, hey, I just saw a 31 on this game. These guys are full of shit. This isn't real. I'm done. Well, no, it's real. Go to this, go to that, go to a tournament. Like, there was an answer. And now there's so many more resources to actually watch people play, to see that it's legit, that if you put in the time and the effort and the money, you can get better at this game. So you're obviously a lot closer than I am. But if there are someone out there, and I'm sure there are, listening to this podcast, whether they're trying to be an elite player, whether they're trying to beat their buddy over a beer, where would you start in terms of advice? Like, you want to get better at Golden Tee, you should do X first.
Well, I appreciate you putting me on the spot first, so you could think about what your answer is going to be.
I
based
have
on what
one
I
too.
Say.
Yeah, I gave enough lead in, but I have a couple, and they're probably the same. I'm sure we share these answers.
No, so for me, I guess it depends on, because we've been to, whether it's trade shows or tournaments or just to bars in general, you see the people who put in $1 or a couple dollars and they don't even look at what they're doing. They just start whacking away. So the first thing is, if you're going to try to play and enjoy it just from the sense of you're on the golf course without being on the golf course, take a look at the control panel. No matter what version of Golden Tee you play, going back to 89, there is a shot guide on there that tells you how, within, some form of realistic expectations, how to hit certain shots, how to, hook and slice the ball, how to, putt. And when you comes to pulling back to putt, or whatever you're trying to do, just look at the control panel and start there. Because if you're not pulling the ball back and then pushing it forward as a new player, you're kind of cutting, at least in my opinion, you're cutting out a decent amount of the control, or even like the mental control that you have when you're playing the game. So that's the first thing for me, is look at that control panel and just start there.
Learning to hit a straight shot. I remember this is something that Steve Sobey, when I'd watch him teach, and he was a phenomenal teacher because he was so patient. And it was, can you hit the ball straight? I'm teaching my kids right now. Getting them to hit the ball straight is really hard. I pulled it back straight, Dad. No, you didn't. You see that arrow at the bottom of the screen? It's pointing directly to the right. I'm watching you and you're lying to me, son. But teaching someone to hit a straight shot is step one, because then you can mirror a straight shot. I'll go macro. The tools now to watch and learn, because there's two elements of getting better, in my opinion. It's course strategy, and then it's like specific to that course, and then it's like how to hit certain shots. Man, there are like podcasts. You can stream a tournament that has taken place. The PGA Tour, Power Events, go check it out. You've got dozens of hours of footage that we've streamed that you can go and learn things. But I truly think the best thing that you can do is go to a tournament and just watch people play, watch them interact, watch how they stand, play a game with them. We've mentioned this before, I think, on the pod. If you are new to this game and you go to these tournaments, these players who are really good, they will play a game with you and they will teach you and they will be patient with you. And it's one of the coolest things about this community that I think that we have. I had a teacher, Steve Sobey, who said, hey, that's great, you can do that. Now forget everything you ever learned about Golden Tee because it's dog shit, and learn how to play this way. And I was like, okay. Now they won't say that to you. You'll have an hour with them. You buy them a beer. I am old school to my core that if you buy somebody a beer who's better than you to play and ask them how to play, they're going to teach you. And I think it's one of the coolest things about our game is the camaraderie and that bar feel that still exists, I think, surrounding skill and just getting better at the game.
Well, I'm just going to stop you really quick to do what I would like to call the cheap pop, because I'm going to talk about the next tournament that is a little over a month away, May 2nd, May 5th,
Cheap pop.
Missouri Open, Maryland Heights, which is not too far from St. Peters, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. I think it's like a 5-6 hour drive for us here in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, we said it before when we were recapping the Wisconsin Open, and we're saying it now. As silly as it sounds, it's like go to a tournament because you really can learn. And I can't tell you how many people I've met in the 7 years that every tournament I meet more and more new players, whether their buddy has come to a tournament for a few years and finally dragged them out, or they just saw one of our videos or one of the live streams from Worlds or the PGA Tour. And they said, you know what, I'm just going to take a chance. I can tell you there's a couple dozen people that I've met over the years, myself included sometimes, that you can get overwhelmed with the number of people that you might see at a tournament. But there's usually good small pockets of like quiet games, not quiet games, but just, you know, you don't have to go up to like Andy Haas, Brian Bernhardt, Ryan McCook and these guys when they're playing like an 8-man 4-cabinet game. That's probably not the best idea. But when you catch one of these guys when they're not playing, or if there's 2 guys on a cabinet, just say, hey, it's my first tournament. My name's so-and-so. You know, I'd love to play a game with you guys and learn more, because I don't care who you are. I can't think of any of the top players that I've known in my time with Golden Tee that have ever said, I just played 3,000 games by myself, became a rock star, and then I just showed up and blew everybody out of the water. Everybody, in some form or fashion, has had a teacher or somebody to take their game to the next level. I mean, I said it before, but I thought I was hot shit when I first met Brian Bernhardt, because I could beat all the local people at the VFW in hometown Illinois and in Monmouth, Western Illinois at college. Like, yeah, you could be good at your local bar, but until you go to a tournament, you really can't appreciate the magnitude that some of these top players, the magnitude of like how great they really are, because they play a ton and they learn from somebody over the years too.
The other piece of that is perfection is unattainable in Golden Tee. It is. And so what drew me into the game is what frustrates everybody. And this is like an extension to real golf too. Like, you are going to suck. And then you're going to, in your eyes, you're going to suck less and less. You're going to have these moments that like, oh man, that was awesome. And then you're going to get great rounds. And then hole 17, 16 is going to come and you're going to blow it. And you're going to be so pissed at yourself. You're going to be pissed at us. You're pissed at Jim's
left 10, up 9, right in the water.
Yeah. You're going to miss that putt for your personal best, and then you're going to fail. And it's very cliche to say play more and get better. But the answer is play more to get better. I think that matching that with seeing what people are trying on certain holes or certain courses and asking questions and matching that with reps and just playing and playing and playing. And I think that is the answer to it. We obviously will talk to players who are more equipped to have this conversation than us, but we've played a lot and we've been around these guys a lot. So maybe we are equipped because we know we've seen these guys and we've watched a lot of these guys grow. Some of these great players grow too. So it is, and reach out to people. We have Facebook, Golden Tee Fan. Go out there. If you live in a certain town around the country and say, hey, I'm in this town. I'd love to get a game with somebody who knows what they're doing. I'll buy you a beer. That I've seen many, many times on the blue boards, Facebook, social media, and it works. And people will respond to you. You'll get plenty of other responses, but you will get a good response too. And that's okay. That's part of it.
Comments.
No, people care, man.
They're the genuine,
Yeah, people care.
Not tongue-in-cheek comments. So I'm just thinking as we get closer to the end of March Madness, and we get through the Sweet 16 into the Elite 8 and all that. Last week we did our top courses. I think what we should do for next week is our top 4 round killers of a hole. Sunnywood 17 is kind of what I'm thinking.
I'm in.
You could have a really good or sorry, not Sunnywood. We're gonna have
Savannah, Grand Savannah. No, that's even better. Yeah, I got you.
No,
Sunnywood is a what do you say? Well, I thought you were talking about hole 16, right? We talked about 16 last week. That hole used to own me. I think it was 16, the par 3 with the front ridge. I mean that. I'm there.
17 at Grand Savannah, but it's how you have a 20 under going into 17. You're oh, perfect. Unless you have a wind that's blowing right towards the top of that green, you're screwed. But I'm thinking of all the different stuff that we can talk about. But I think that would be fun as we kind of wrap up the March Madness of it all.
And maybe we could even ask Jim. It would be a great question for Jim. What does he think the hardest holes he's ever made are? And put him on the spot. I mean, this is fun. For us, we have an opinion. He might have a different opinion.
I was going to say a better question or a follow-up question may be, what hole have you designed purposely to tank the shit out of players' games if they're having a really good one?
We're going to just turn on him so fast and be like, guys, it's a great podcast, but I'm never doing that again. Yes. So we will talk, hopefully next week, we'll talk to Jim. Either way, we'll do our 4 round killers, so to speak, and we'll like to set up with Jim. I did want to mention one more. We have fun. We keep it light. But this time of year, I would be remiss not to talk about Brad Litz, who was our head tech. He was a great friend. He was a great ambassador in the community. He was obviously people listening to this. I think Brad would come to tournaments. He would fix your games. He would do it with a smile on the face. Well, I think about Brad a lot this time of year. A, because this is about the 4-year anniversary of his passing, and B, opening day of baseball, which is today. The guy was a fantasy baseball machine, right? It's a guy that you would bring in to draft your teams. It was a guy when I would drive to St. Louis tournaments around this time of year, would have a wealth of information to talk about fantasy baseball. And although I can't believe it's been 4 years. I can't believe it's been 4 years since he's passed. I think about that dude a lot. This time of year, I think about him as well. And it's really horrible and sad, but also the guy still has is so highly regarded and missed in this community that I can't help but speak about him any chance I get. So Brad, we miss you. And I know you were obviously, I miss our games. We would play at tournaments when we would go. We were the guys that couldn't shoot as good.
Yeah, when I was the 20-year-old who barely got in the tournament, and I legit was not trying to drink underage, I just wanted to play fucking Golden Tee, you and Brad really took me under your wings of you guys can have your beers and bullshit, but there was no pressure because you guys liked your jobs and loved them enough to keep me in high regards, and it's part of the reason why I'm here today, because of those games that I played with you and Brad, 12, 13, 14 years ago almost.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know he is again 4 years, unbelievable. Even seeing some of our old colleagues, we talked about him, we celebrate him. We miss him very much. And this time of year, opening day, I'm not a Cubs fan, but I will root for the Cubs today. In honor of Brad. I'm sorry, your White Sox are losing right now as we're doing this. That's fine. It's baseball, baby. Mets got rained out. They'll suck too.
It's good because they would have got their ass beat anyways.
They're going to tomorrow. We know it. So all right,
we're going to talk about this all season long. Sox suck. Mets suck. Who the hell cares? It's baseball. It'll be a good time.
It is.
As long as the Cardinals for Josh don't do good, I don't care.
No, well, I know we have a fair amount of St. Louis folks that listen. We have a Golden Tee in the St. Louis Cardinals clubhouse. I will say that. That is my my appreciation of the Cardinals, it sort of starts and stops there, though. Outside of that, I do love that and only that. Yeah. So next week we got a lot of stuff. We're gonna try and get Jim on. We know how that goes. So if it doesn't work, we'll bullshit our way through another episode.
We'll get him the next week.
And we'll definitely have more stuff, 35th anniversary, updates on what we're doing and everything else. So for Kevin, I'm Adam. We'll talk to you guys soon.